Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? Please type yes. Hi, we are here for the group discussion and PI session for SET today. And I would be taking you through a lot of topics and a lot of fundamentals for group discussion and PI. My name is Soumya Jain, and let's start. The first thing that we are going to talk about today is the personal interview. A very important thing for all of us to understand is that a personal interview is not very different from any other interaction that we have with other people. The only thing is that we are having this interaction with a person that you have never met in your life. So, and a PI experience can be slightly different. What you need to note is that the purpose of an interview is to select candidates. You are not there to be rejected. This is a selection process. A written test is a cut and dried test given to everyone. The best performers at this level typically go on to the next stage while the others are left at. Written test papers are not designed to suit each candidate, but interviews are. In a written test, all must compete in the same arena. The purpose and therefore the structure of an interview is very, very different. A science graduate may be asked questions on science, but certainly will not be asked questions pertaining to commerce. And if you have studied commerce in your 12th standard, you would definitely not be asked deeper questions on philosophy and arts. So, an interview is designed to suit each candidate's strengths and give maximum opportunity to every one of you to perform well and to convince the panel that the candidate should be selected. Hence, interview is not something that you should be intimidated about. We will discuss a lot of questions that are generally asked in interviews and a lot of techniques to handle these things. But before we do that, we need to talk about how to prepare for an interview, and why it is important to prepare for an interview. Okay, I'm getting on chat here that my voice is not audible. Yes. Am I audible to everyone now? Please type yes if it is. All right, let's continue. In the light of what we have just talked about, that interviews is like any other interaction and is meant to select and not reject you, it should be absolutely clear to you that the key to tackling interviews lies in preparing thoroughly and maintaining composure. Do not think that an interview is some strange phenomenon. It is not. It is no different, as I have said earlier, it is no different from chatting with your friends or family or relatives or somebody you meet on the metro. It is no different from a regular conversation. You can succeed in an interview if you know yourself well and if you prepare thoroughly. Preparing for an interview is very important. It is important for you to anticipate the kind of questions that can be asked and go well prepared. We will talk about a couple of these questions that are generally asked in an interview. The first very important question is, which is usually asked from every other candidate, tell me something about yourself or introduce yourself. Now, we often believe introduction to the interview should be very well structured. It should talk about your academic record. It should talk about your family, your likes, dislikes, etc., etc. But it is not so. You can talk about anything that is related to you in your introduction. It is for you to decide. Okay, am I audible now? I'm getting this a lot on chat, that my voice is not clear. Am I audible to everyone? All right. So what we were talking about was that how to tackle this question, tell me something about yourself or introduce yourself. Now, let's see how to prepare for this introduction. Think about all those things. Think about all those things that you're very confident about talking about. You might be confident talking about your academics, you might not be. You might be confident about talking about your hobbies, you might not be. So first thing is, make a list of all these things that you are very confident talking about. Let us say I am a science person and I have done my 12th standard from science stream and I have got very good marks. I want to talk about my academics. So I would put that way. I have been taking part in a lot of extracurricular activities and I do want to talk about it. So yes, I will put that in my list there. On the other hand, if I'm not good at academics and I don't want them to ask me a lot of questions on that, I might choose not to talk about it at all in my introduction. So your introduction should be about things that you want to talk about and you are confident about. So the first thing that you have to do is take out pen and paper and write down all these things that you want to talk about. Remember that an interview is a conversation. So one question will come out of the answer to another question. If in your introduction you talk a lot about your academics, it is very likely that the next question that would be asked from you would be from the area of academics. On the other hand, if you say a lot about your extracurricular activities or hobbies, it is very likely that the next question that will be asked to you would be from that section. So, talk about things that are important. You can include the basic details. You can talk about your personality traits, your achievements, your aspirations, motivations, and ambitions. And you can also talk about your education, family, anything at all. There is no set pattern to the introduction. There is no set pattern to this question. Tell me something about yourself. The answers should be such that it gives a definite direction to the interview. So decide what are the things that I want the interviewer to ask me and mention all those things and areas in your introduction. So this is your first homework for today. Go home and make a list of things that you really want to talk about. The second homework is related. Make a list of all those things that you are not very comfortable talking about. And then, in order to prepare for the interview, write down all possible questions that can be asked from these areas that you are not comfortable with and try and answer them. Prepare well for these areas as well. Just because you do not want them to be asked does not mean that they will not be asked. So, it is important for you to be prepared on both the lists, list A and the list where you are not comfortable with areas. Now, let's move on and talk about another question that is usually asked. You are usually asked to describe your academic achievements and background. It is important for each one of us to do well academically. This has been our primary objective and vocation. We were expected to study and score well. But even if you have not, do not worry. Your interview will not be decided on how much you have scored in your 12th standard or 11th standard or in previous classes. Your interview is designed to test you overall and then see whether you fit the role for which you are giving the interview. So even if you have not done really well in academics, do not get nervous about it. Talk about other things that you have done well. Even if your overall percentage has not been good, you can always talk about the subject that you have liked and worked on. For example, in 10th standard, my overall percentage was not very good, but I was very good at science. So I can talk about science and I can handle questions on that. Prepare for that. I would suggest that you prepare at least one subject from your 12th standard. All right. So this is about academics. Now somebody is asking me, Priyam is asking me, how should I make the interviewer not ask much about my academics? Priyam, if you do not mention a lot about your academics in your introduction or answer to the question, tell me something about yourself, that does not mean that questions on academics will not come. What I mean to say here is that if your introduction should be centered about things that you want to talk about, and it is very likely that most of the questions that would be asked to you would be from those areas. Nevertheless, if the interviewer does ask about your academics, be prepared with at least one subject thoroughly and generally talk about it properly. Do not hide anything and do not lie. Yes, you should definitely, yes, Priyam, you should definitely tell them the truth if they ask you. Please do not lie about your percentages or any other thing. But yes, you can direct the questions to the areas that you are more interested in. For example, I just told you about my 10th panel. So, for example, if somebody asks me, so I can always say that I could not score a lot overall because I was not very good at this particular thing, but I have always been very good at science. So, if the next question comes from an area of science, I should be confident that I can handle it. Vrishti is asking me if we should take our resumes to the interview. Yes, you should definitely take your resume to the interview. A lot of the interview panel gives you a form to fill in which your details would be asked. And a lot of times they tell you that the resume is not required. Nevertheless, it pays to carry a copy of your resume. So always carry one copy of your resume to the interview. You should also carry a folder in which all your certificates pertaining to your academics as well as extracurriculars are neatly arranged in chronological order, starting from the very recent to the last. Even if you are not asked to take these kind of folders, I think you should take them. See, Ramanuj is asking us, what should we do if we are not good at either extracurricular activities or academics? The idea of the interview is not to judge what are your significant achievements only. There are other aspects to the interview also. Interview is a personality assessment stage, which means that your entire personality is being assessed. Think about who you are and what you like doing. There must be something that you are very good at. Talk about that. Talk about your passions. Talk about your aim and ambitions. Talk about what you want to do. It is at all to talk about your academics if you have not been good at that. Let's move on to some other questions and then I'll come back to these questions and answer them. The next very important question that is usually asked in an interview is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Now, this is a very tricky question and we get that a lot. A lot of students ask us that, how should I answer that? What are my strengths and weaknesses? Remember one thing, do not fabricate your strengths and weaknesses. Do not ask other people. Do not ask your faculty members, what should I say in my strengths and weaknesses? Decide for yourselves. Ask your family and friends, what are the things that you're good at? What parts of your personality they like and they do not like? Sit down in a dark, nice corner of your room and think about what are the things that are good in you? Are you kind? Do you help people? Are you patient? Do you like doing work on time, or do you always rush to meet the deadline? Think about all these things and decide yourself what are your strengths and weaknesses. And again, please do not lie. Okay, I have one request to all of you. When you're putting queries in my chat box, please do not do it privately. Please send it to all participants so that everybody can see what your query is and I can answer them. Alright, so this makes us move on to the next question, which is asked by Webber. And Webber, this is the next area also that I want to talk about. What are your hobbies? And how should we answer questions on hobbies? Now, as for strengths and weaknesses, hobbies should also not be fabricated. There are no nice hobbies and not so nice hobbies, correct hobbies and incorrect hobbies. Hobby is anything that you like doing, that you passionately pursue, and this is something that should definitely not be fabricated. Think about what are the things that you like doing. Do you like reading? Do you listen to music? Do you like dancing? Do you like photography? Are you interested in watching TV channels like Discovery or National Geographic? Do you read a particular magazine? Are you interested in cooking? Think about what do you like doing and then pursue it. Find out more about that, and that is your hobby. So, again, I would like to tell this to all the students to ask me queries privately. Please send it to all participants so that everybody can see. Ayush, please send your query to all participants so that everybody can see and I can answer these queries. Vaibhav is asking whether we should know everything about hobby. No, it is not possible for you to do that. You are not a professional in that. It is only your hobby. So it is not important for you to know everything about your hobby, but yes, certain basic things you should be aware of. If I tell you that I like Western dances, and then somebody asks me what is salsa and I go blank, then that is not dance. I should know whatever I'm talking about, I should know at least the basics of that. I should be aware of that. I should be aware of the happenings in that particular area also. So, although you should not fabricate your hobbies, but at least try and think very seriously what really just you have nothing better to do today and you're listening to music does not mean that listening to music becomes your hobby. Music will become your hobby if you're really passionate about it, about a particular area, about a particular singer or a band, or if you like to play something. Alright, Ayush is asking us things to take in the interview room like notebook, etc. I shall address that query a little later when we'll talk about how to dress for the interview and what to take. Now let's move on to the next question. Why should we take or reject? Why should we take you or why should we reject you? Why should we not take the other person? What is that good in you that should make you come to this interview and be successful? To answer this query, again move on. Think about what are the things that you can do which will make you successful. What are your qualities? What are your strengths? How the college will benefit by having you as a student. Think about these things and answer on the same line. It is very, very important for you to consider the kind of institute that you're going to and research the institute well also in advance. To ask you this question, they are concerned whether you have the requisite knowledge, skills, attitudes and habits for that particular seat. They're also concerned with your personality profile, which includes your psychological and emotional makeup, upbringing, values and motivation. These are some of the questions which candidates often face in the interviews. We will again come to a couple of them and answer them as we move on. Everyone is asking us how much should we put in emotional content in answering the question, or should we remain practical and professional? I think that you cannot really fake that. If you do have a temper, it is going to show. And if you are very practical and calm, that is also going to come across in the interview panel, with the interview panels. Please remember that these people who are going to interview are not nice. They are not also amateurs. They have been doing this for a very long time, and it is not possible for you to fool them. So please do not try and fabricate a personality trait that you do not have. But yes, try to be calm and composed during the interview. Alright, so after this question, one last time I'm requesting all of you to please your query to everybody and not send it privately. I will not entertain any private query from now on. So any questions you have, please post it to everyone. Okay, so Bhavya is asking us, but we need to make our interview interesting in order to get selected. Why should we keep anything back? No, you should definitely not keep anything back. You need to make it interesting. You need to make yourself interesting. You are a product in this interview, and the person, your interview panel, is going to select or reject you based on what you're going to say. But that does not really mean that you can blur out every single thought that comes to your mind. You need to be prepared for the interview means that you need to be sure of what you are, what your qualities are, what your personality traits are. Most of us in our everyday course do not pay attention to these things. If somebody asks me what is my strength or weakness, I have to think for a while before I answer. So before I move on to the interview, it is very, very important that you do give a thought to all these questions. See, fumbling is never a problem, Ayush. A lot of people fumble while they answer questions. A lot of us fumble when we are taking questions. What I'm going to say on this panel today is going to be very articulate, but that is all right. The interview panel is not interested in how well you can speak. Your communication skills are important, but they are not interested in that you can speak without fumbling. What they're interested in is you. What are your thoughts and purposes in life? How can you articulate? How much can you articulate yourself? See, I'm fumbling, but that doesn't mean you won't understand me. So the important thing is that the interview panel should understand who you are and what are your thoughts, etc. If your thought process is structured, if you are able to deliver what they want, then fumbling will not be a problem. Webhub, please ask your question to everybody. I will not answer questions that you're sending to me privately. Answers, please send them to all participants. All right, next move on and discuss a couple of more questions. Let's talk about the area questions, the subject-wise questions that are asked, because I'm getting a lot of queries related to that. Now, when I say that you need to prepare at least one subject from your 12th standard syllabus, that is a precautionary step. Let's say they start asking you questions from your academics and you are not able to answer. What are you going to do? A very good answer could be, sir, I don't know this, but I'm very good at this particular subject. And for that purpose, it is very important that you need to prepare one subject extremely thoroughly. Sometimes it also happens that as soon as you start talking of your academics, the panel will ask you yourself, okay, which is your favorite subject? And then they ask you questions from that. To answer that question also, it is important that you prepare one subject. All right. So this is about interview. If you have any more questions on interview, I'll take that and we'll move on to group discussion now. All right. So Alankrit is asking us about resume. Before I move on to group discussion, let me finish PI with the small take on resume. Yes, you definitely need to carry your resume. You need to, please try and not make it more than 1 page long. That is enough, especially because most of you guys have no work experience, so there's not much that you can really put on the resume. Please do not make it more than 1 page long. It should have your personal details, like your phone number, contact details, your address, your age, etc. Should definitely have your academic and extracurricular achievements, your interests and hobbies. And in case you have done any kind of work, whether voluntary, whether with an NGO, whether in a group or in a session, or even if you have done any part-time work, that should definitely be mentioned. Am I audible now? Is everybody getting my voice? Please type yes if you're getting my voice. All right, Alankrit, what do you want me to repeat? Do you want me to repeat the interview question? All right, I'll say this one more time. You need to make a resume. It should be a single page resume. It should have your personal details like your age, your contact number, your date of birth, etc. It should definitely have your academic achievements. It should definitely have your extracurricular achievements. If you don't have certificates for these, it's all right. Let's say you have helped organize an event in your school and you do not have certificates for that, that's all right. You can definitely put it on your CV and you can also mention that in your interview. It is all right, and then put all these things. Do not make it more than 1 page. Please do a spell check. Format it properly, and take a nice clean sheet of paper. Do not fold the sheet. Carry this as well as all your certificates in a neat folder to your interview. Alright, one very important question that has been asked on the chat window that I'm going to answer. What about objective or aim? See, it is exactly the same as strengths, weaknesses, and hobbies. Aim or objective or purpose in life cannot really be faked or framed. It is entirely on to you how you want to answer that question, but I'll give you a couple of tips. Most of us have thought about what we want to do in the next couple of years. I want to do engineering, I want to become a doctor, I want to become a lawyer, as in your case. I want to do a business administration course. But what after that? Think about what is that one field, one area that you would like to work in. Talk to a couple of people. Get to know that area better and then decide whether you want to go there or not. Let's take an example. If somebody was going for a BBA course, a business administration bachelor course, is asked, what is the specialization that you would like to take later? Or what field or area would you like to join to this particular course? There are several ways of answering this question. The first important step to answer this question is, again, as I said earlier, think about what are the areas that interest you. Does finance sound very interesting, or is it HR, or is it marketing or operations? There are a lot of terms and there are a lot of areas that we do not even know about. Get to know them. Do a little bit of research. Talk to a couple of people who are working in this field and then decide if you're interested. And let's say if you're not able to decide. I am not able to decide whether I want to do HR or finance or marketing, then a good answer would be that I would like to learn a lot in this course in the first couple of months and then make a more informed choice at a later stage. So right now I'm not sure, but these are my areas of interest. This is a perfect right answer and a perfectly suitable one also. If you do not have a lot of clarity on what you want to do after 20 years, after 10 years, or even after 7, it is all right to say so. What is important is that you are very clear on what you want to do right now. Body language and body gestures are very important. Iti? This must have been addressed earlier also, but I would say that again. You need to maintain constant eye contact with all the panelists. You need to be properly dressed. You also need to sit straight. Why? If he is asking us why body gestures are important. Imagine a person who is slouching in front of you, sitting cross in the seat, is looking at the door while he is talking to you. Would you like to continue talking to that person? No, you wouldn't. Would the conversation really be interesting? It would not be. So, it is important to sit straight, be properly dressed, be courteous and polite, and maintain eye contact. Alright, now we'll start with the DD concepts and we'll discuss what happens in a group discussion. A group discussion is like any other group exercise. Usually, group discussion happens in two ways, structured and unstructured. Most of us are going to encounter an unstructured group discussion in the course of entrance exams. Let's talk about what is an unstructured group discussion and how to do about it. More often than not, a group discussion consists of about 8 to 12 participants who are made to sit in a semicircle formation and are given a topic for discussion. This is the group discussion exercise. Usually, the panel gives you a topic, gives you 2 minutes to think about it, and then about 10 to 15 minutes to talk on that topic. There are several misconceptions and myths about group discussion, and we are going to talk about them right now. The first question that we often get is, what if I don't know anything about the topic? What should I do? Most interview panels will allow you to write down and jot down points on a piece of paper while you are there in your 2 minutes of thinking. Try and think of all these points for and against the topic and examples, etc., that you can think of and write them down. Please do not write complete sentences and paragraphs because you will not have time for that. Try and write in shorthand or write down in points so that you can later just refer to them and speak. If you do not know anything about the topic, let somebody else start. Listen to them for 2-3 minutes, understand what the topic is about, and then start formulating your own points. This brings us to the second question in group discussion. Should I start the GD? Is it good to be noticed? Yes, it is good to start the GD if you know anything about it. If you have a very strong point which you can carry off, and if you think you can start impressively, please do that. But it is not mandatory for you to start. Starting might not win you enough points if you fumble in the beginning or if you do not have a strong point to start with. Also, a lot of times this happens that the person who starts the GD generally starts describing the topic in detail and does not add anything to it. Please keep it short. At any instance in a group discussion, you will not get more than a 40-second window to put your point. You might get several opportunities to speak, but each of these windows, each of these opportunities will not be more than 30 seconds long. So it is important that you keep your points brief and to the point so that what you want to say is delivered effectively. So starting a GD is good if you have a point and you can concisely put it forward without elaborating a lot or without fumbling. The next important question that is generally asked is, how important are communication skills in group discussions? Communication skills are important. But without communication, without being able to communicate, you will not be able to put across your point. But a great level of English or a very articulate speaking style is not really necessary. What is also not necessary is a very, very flowery language. Please use simple sentences. They will be short and will be more precise. They will also be effective. It is important that the panel and the rest of the participants understand what you are saying. Otherwise, this will become a monologue and not a discussion. Chirag is asking us, should we just start speaking? Yes, you should. More often than not, the panel will tell you discussion at a particular time and you can start speaking. You do not have to create an environment to start the GD. That would be done by the panel. Let's come to the next important question that is asked in the chat window. The question is, should we interrupt somebody? See, group discussion is not a debate. It is not a competition where you are going to win and rest are going to not win. Group discussion or any other group exercise is a group exercise, which means all of you need to bring out the best in the group discussion. All of you are responsible for leading the discussion in the right pace. So if somebody is making a very relevant and important point and you interrupt and the point is not completed, then that might not win you a lot of points. It is okay to interrupt people, it is okay to cut in, but do it only if you have a better point or if you are correcting it or if you are able to present a point very, very effectively. Otherwise, time it and you will get your own time in order to speak. Now let's come on to some of the other questions. How to avoid fish market? How to drive away from already established fish market? This question is asked by Vaibhav, and this is a very relevant question because a lot of times you realize that you're in the middle of a discussion where everybody is shouting and you're not able to do anything about it. I'll give you one technique that I usually find very effective. When you're sitting in a group discussion, it is usually 2 or 3 people who are shouting and who are creating what Vaibhav calls a fish market. Look at people who are not really shouting and who are trying to speak, who are interested in speaking but are not able to speak because of others shouting. Try and strike a conversation with them, or try and wait for the lull in that fish market. When somebody is speaking at a very fast pace or very loudly, there's going to come a point very soon where they will take a break. You need to put across your point in that break. Start a new conversation there so that you get heard and your point is effectively delivered. That brings us to another point in the GD, how to handle the various kinds of topics that are given. See, group discussion and interview, both of them would be greatly helped if you have a habit of reading. If you're reading newspapers regularly, if you are reading books, etc., then you would usually not have problems handling a variety of topics. So what we are going to do here is, we are going to quickly move on and see a couple of the important topics that have been compiled for you for this particular group discussion. On the slide here, you can see a lot of topics that are related to current affairs. These are important topics for this year, and we suggest that you go through these and think of a couple of points on each of these. Just in case you get one of these topics, it would be to your advantage. Let's look at some of these topics. Let's look at this topic. Our cricketers are not to blame for match fixing. It is not necessary that you get exactly this topic. You can get something related to cricketers or to cricket in general, or something related to match fixing as well. You might not get exactly this topic, but if you read on this and if you prepare some points on this, or even if you sit down for 10 minutes and think about this, you will be able to handle all related topics. Let's take another. If it says, if the topic is, law is the creation of strong to rule the weak, then that doesn't mean you're going to get exactly this phrase in your GD. But if you get something related to jurisprudence, or related to law, or related to the philosophy or relevance of law in our times, you will be able to tackle that if you have thought about this particular topic for 10-15 minutes. Please note down all these topics, and your homework is that you think about at least 10 minutes about each one. Try and write down as many points related to each one of these topics as possible. I hope all of you have noted down these topics, and now let's move on to the next point. I'll take up a couple of questions which are being asked in the chat window, and then we'll move on to group exercise. So Ayush is asking us, is it beneficiary to conclude the GD at the end and put forward the majority view? See, most of the time what will happen, Ayush, is that your GD will not have a conclusion. As discussion would build, you would have newer points, and it is very, very possible that at the end of 10 or 15 assigned minutes, you have not reached a conclusion. So if the group has not reached a conclusion, please do not conclude the GD and do not say that this is the majority view, because you might not know. As soon as you say this, somebody else might contradict you. A lot of times this also happens that the panel would ask one of you to conclude the GD, then you can, or summarize the GD, then that is the right time to conclude it. If you have not been asked, and if the group has not really reached a consensus, please do not try and conclude. Rashi is asking us, can you prove someone wrong to put your point? See, if somebody is making an irrelevant point, if making a point which is wrong, it is okay to interrupt and contradict the point. But it is very, very effective if we do it with data or with a strong point of yours. Do not just say that no, you are wrong and I know better. No. Please make a very relevant point, a logical point in order to contradict the other person. Also, please do not resort to personal examples. I know this because I'm from Delhi. This is what happens in Delhi. I had a friend who did this. I had a friend who had this kind of experience with Delhi police. No, please do not resort to personal experiences or examples. Make general statements and take up data or facts which are relevant. Vrishti is asking us, will I be given a chance to speak or will I have to make my own way? Vrishti, you will have to make your own way. Group discussion, in a group discussion, a group is given about 15 minutes. In that, usually if it is an unstructured GD, time is not allotted individually to the participants. So you will have to make your own way and start discussions where you can contribute effectively. Please remember, it is not important to speak continuously in the GD. But it is important for you to speak continually. Try and enter GD 3 to 4 times, make important contributions, get yourself heard, and then move out. It is not necessary that you speak at the entire 10-15 minutes length, but it is important that every time you enter the GD and speak something, you make a contribution which is effective. Your role is to take the GD in the right kind of direction. For panel to notice us, what kind of composure should we maintain? This is asked by Bhavya. Bhavya, panel will notice you if you are making important contribution in the GD. As far as composure is concerned, please do not get a lot aggressive. Do not shout at people, do not point fingers. Please respect your personal space and the personal space of others. Sometimes students have this tendency to move hands a lot or to get up from their seat. Please do not do that. Sit as an interview. Sit straight, maintain eye contact with most of the people. Get into the discussion and try and get into a civilized discussion. It is okay to contradict and interrupt people, but it is really not okay to shout at them. We'll come to group exercise and we'll discuss that. I'm just taking the last round of questions on group discussion and then we'll move on to the next. All right, now let's move on to group exercise and see what happens there. Group exercise is not very different from a group discussion. In a group exercise, instead of a topic to discuss, you are usually given a task. Group exercise can be of various kinds. Group exercise can be a case study. It can also be an activity which you have to do. So it can be anything from tackling a particular case, then to building a paper bridge, or to doing a treasure hunt. It can be anything at all. As in group discussion, please remember that this is a group exercise, which means the success of the group is very important. You are not competing against all these people that are there in your group. You are competing with them. So, if the task is successful, all of you are going to win points. If the task is not successful, then all of you are going to lose points. It is very, very important that you ensure that you contribute in the success of the exercise. You can also have a role play web hub in GE. Let's take an example. You can be given a role play like this, that you're a group of 5 or 6 people who are the board of directors of a company who manufactures cars, low-end cars, and the car which was very popular for many years now is now falling down. The sales are going down. You will be given some statistics. You might be given a particular case to read with this, and then you would be made to you would be asked to make decisions about it, being in different roles. One of you can become a marketing head, one of you can be an HR head, one of you can be a broker, one of you can be the chairman of the group, etc. So yes, you can be given a role play in the group exercise also. It is asking us, should we mediate the GD or should we let the panel do it? In any group exercise or GD, if you are made the moderator by the panel, then you can mediate the GD. Otherwise, let the group decide and do as they want to do. Do not spend your energy trying to decide who should speak and who should not, who should be given the chance. Focus your energy in making meaningful contribution to the group task or to the group exercise or to the group discussion so that your contribution is valued and is noted. Ayush is asking us a very important question. He's asking us, if the other participants perform badly but I perform well, will it affect me also? See, again, as I said, your contribution will be noted and your contribution will be given marks. But if the entire group discussion is a disaster, or if your group exercise is a disaster, or if you as a group has failed in the task, then yes, every participant does get affected. So your contribution and your participation is important, but what is also important is the success of the task or of the discussion. So please keep that in mind. It is in your benefit if the group succeeds. And it is in your benefit if you are able to perform and contribute to that success. So I think we have taken most of the programs, most of the questions that were there in the chat window. Some of you were not able to note down the topics in the second slide. So we will, second and third slide. So we are going to just run through these slides once again. And then I will close the session. And in case you have any more queries, then you can write to me at soumya.jain@careerlauncher.com. I'm going to spell that for you. It is SAUNYA.JAIN@careerlauncher.com. A more effective and a very, very quick service to all your queries would be done by the faculty at your respective centers. So one important thing is that you can write to me definitely anytime you want, but a very, very effective mode would be to go to the center and ask your faculty to answer your queries. You can also, for the sake of practicing GD, form individual groups and practice them at the center. That would also add greatly to your benefit and to your experience. We will close the session now, and in case you have any more queries, you can write to us or contact your faculty as I said. Thank you very much for your attention today. Goodbye.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can anyone hear me? Type yes, you can